But at the end of the day, when you're in a small startup, you always want to build for something for the future, which requires your ability to think about what's going to happen when you scale. And my whole philosophy has been to build a business which can actually, when it scales, it doesn't burst. Hi, I'm Srinjay Sengupta, co-founder at Travel.Earth, which is an online digital media platform. Welcome to Backstage with Millionaires. Today, I'm going to talk about our journey at Travel.Earth and how we built up this company into an exciting new media platform. So my first experience was actually, I actually graduated from India back in the 90s. And I used to work with a large company here, consumer products company. And in the mid-90s, I got an offer to start up the office for a technology services company in UK. So I was moving from a very large, consumer products organization into setting up the operations for a very small Indian IT services company in UK. I actually went down there in the UK. I had to start off by finding the first office, trying to figure out who am I going to work with, who are going to be my customers, etc. I think the first 2-3 years were very difficult because I did not know the country, I did not know people, I did not know the customs, etc., etc. But I think that was a time when I really understood what entrepreneurship is about, because that's the time when you're alone. Sometimes you got no one to talk to. The only company is probably the trees outside your office building. And you had to really think about, okay, how to build business for this company. How do I do that? That was an excellent journey. I actually moved there in the mid-90s. In about 9 or 10 years, from a zero base, I built a business of about $500 million for that company. I was able to open offices as the head of Europe for that company across 10 countries in Europe. I hired a lot of people. By the time I left there, I had a team of about 2,000 people. So that was really my first, they say sometimes intrapreneur, or, so you're, like an internal entrepreneur. That was really my taste of entrepreneurship. And I think that journey made me understand that, yes, of course, my education, I was blessed with a good education, if you will, that my education might have pushed me to get into a large company, seek up a role as some senior guy somewhere. But I knew that my heart was in entrepreneurship. I knew that I wanted to do something of my own. So after that first job, in the UK, I moved a couple of jobs. I actually spent some time in another IT company. I also did work with a management consulting firm, one of the leading management consultants in the world. So I actually learned a lot of my corporate stuff through my experience. But my first job there, as I said, the first company I was there, that's really what sparked my entrepreneurship. I was probably too young at that time to think about what business idea. And I'm actually glad that I spent those 10, 15 years in the UK working for big professional companies, because at the end of the day, I would like, along with my partner Arun, to build a business which is going to scale. And while many things in a small startup are not relevant from what you do in a big place, because of course in a small startup there's a lot of entropy, there's a lot of uncertainty, you spend your time doing things which might not be that important, but it has to be done. But at the end of the day, when you're in a small startup, you always want to build for something for the future, which requires your ability to think about what's going to happen when you scale. And my whole philosophy has been to build a business which can actually, when it scales, it doesn't burst. The market that you're operating in has to be an attractive enough market, a large enough market. Most people who get into it, who unfortunately sometimes don't succeed much, is because they have a great idea, but it actually caters to a very small niche, right? So if you want to build a large company, you've got to be sure that is there a market for this, right? And I think my experiences have said that the industries that I've been where I've succeeded, the market's been huge, right? So that's a case of maybe making the choices about which market you play in. I do think that, it seems an obvious thing, but you've got to be able to bust your backside, right? Work really hard, right? And I know it seems like an obvious thing, but I think in many cases, an entrepreneur, it's not a set time that, you wake up at X time and work till Y, right? Many of us who've done this, we know that you're pretty much 24/7, you're doing things. You've got to find the right balance in your life, because you can't end up just being like that. People like me, I have a family, I want to find that balance, but I need to know that I need to be switched on all through. And that's what I mean by the hard work in an entrepreneurship model, right? You have to be switched on. If that is not the case, if that's not your natural style, if you're over compartmentalized that, this time is for my personal space, this time is, I think it's difficult. So, hard work and being switched on also is important. I do think something which I think appeals to me, which I think for any entrepreneur is important is how you are with people. Because at the end of the day, an entrepreneur never succeeds by himself or herself, right? It's the close team of people that you can get together. It's not just being able to hire at great salaries, etc. How do you keep a person who is probably not, an owner of your company, happy, engaged, and, if you will, part of the story, right? I think that's something which entrepreneurs have to really think about every day, because I think successful entrepreneurs have always been able to do it with a team of really motivated, turned on people. I do believe that's something that in my professional life I have fortunately been able to work with that, because I've had a high growth business in my past. I've had to hire people out from the cold, get them started and get them motivated enough to work for me, if you will. That, I think, as a skill is hopefully I bring to the table. Hopefully my team will agree to that. That's a skill that I hopefully bring to the table, which will help. I think it generally helps entrepreneurs succeed in that. So back in 2009-10, I decided to give it all up and start my own journey. And at that time, I was thinking I want to do something which is going to be more my passion, because all the work that I'd done, yes, I loved what I was doing, but my personal passion was a lot more into sports. I used to enjoy sports. And at that time, I met my partner, Arun, and a couple of our other partners, and then we started up a sports company called Fans on Stands. Fans on Stands originally was started off with the intention of providing sports tickets and hospitality packages to customers in India. So, we tie up with some of the big names across the world, if you think tennis, Formula One, etc. And then we promote their hospitality packages back in India. That was our foray into travel, because while we were doing tickets, we of course soon realized that, that many of our customers don't just want us to procure tickets for them, they also want the travel, the hotel, the flights, etc. So we soon morphed into being just from a sports company. We ended up being almost like a tourism company with a very heavy focus on sports, of course. So that was our journey with Fans on Stands. That company is still going well. We have a lot of customers, both high net worth customers and corporate clients in India. They do a lot of these tours and travels with us, many of which are centered on sports, but we also do bespoke events, we do music tours, etc., etc. So that was one business that we have, my partner and Arun. About 2.5 years back, we actually also started with a online media company. Our whole drive at that time was that we were doing all these sports tours, packages, etc. But we also found that the younger generation in India, they're not so much driven by what people say. They're much more driven by, of course, the digital devices that they use. And that almost sparked a thinking in us that how can we create the market for the younger generations in this country? So we said we have to have almost a platform whereby we can inspire people to travel. That's not going to happen through us making calls. That's going to happen through people reading about things, people seeing things. We started Travel.Earth initially, to be honest, as a online, just providing some content. So we started off writing just as a blog, if you will, because we said, let's just write some blogs and then let's see where it goes. I think over time we discovered that merely writing a blog or merely writing some content will never attract people to come. So then we said, okay, we should then start building, our presence across various digital media platforms like Facebook, etc. We actually hired a marketing team and we started putting up much of our content in some of these platforms. Things did go well. I mean, it's of course slow. It takes time to build up a media property. We start putting money into marketing. We start putting money into content. But we still felt that there are some elements which were missing. And one of the things which we believe is actually really a big fillip for us is that we said, we don't necessarily have to do all this by ourselves. Can we actually expand our ecosystem and actually use people who don't work for us, who might be bloggers today, influencers today, etc. Can they actually contribute into our platform? That's when we started engaging with some of these people. India has a host to many of these travel influencers, bloggers, etc. And we found that we naturally were able to expand our ecosystem and started working with many of these people. So we now today have a fairly large ecosystem of external contributors who also write for us, who regularly contribute to our platform, and that's how we've actually built up our audience base. The other thing is, because we have our sports company, our tourism company, we have a fairly good relationship with some of the tourism boards across the world, right? It might be a tourism board in some country that we worked with. And what we also found that many of these tourism boards are looking to engage Indian audiences and young Indian audiences. We actually tied the two together. And what we've also started doing now is that we've started taking both our internal team as well as some of the external influencers we work with, stitched up some deals with some of these tourism boards where they go and visit a location, they write about it, they provide some sort of sound bites and popularity for these tourism boards. And that's how also we are trying to build up this whole ecosystem with us. So we've actually done some of these tie-ups, and we moved from being just a writing blogs into expanding our ecosystem, into working with some of the tourism boards, etc. We have a lot of things planned. We also have because we are closely working with some of these external influencers, we also planned to create these people work very hard. They, I would say many of them are doing it thanklessly because they're doing it out of their passion. And recently we came upon this idea that, we probably should institute a recognition system in the industry where, if you're a travel writer, if you're a travel influencer or a travel photographer, can we actually create an awards program? We actually therefore launched what we call as the Earthies Awards. And Earthies is really signifying an earth without boundaries, right? It's meant for the traveler. These awards are very much targeted at these influencers, where across multiple categories, we reward people based on what they are contributing. We actually held our first Earthies Awards ceremony just 2 weeks back. It was a very good success. We had awards across multiple categories, about 20 or 25 categories. We had an independent set of jurors, and we hope to extend this franchise over the next few quarters and years. So now we are actually, Travel.Earth is going in various directions. One is we write content for ourselves, we put it up, we write sponsored content, we've got external influencers that we engage with travel industry. We also have this whole awards program that we are doing, which we hope over the next few years will also build up. That's really where we are trying to take the company. So that was my journey. Hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to share it with whoever you'd want to, or leave a comment here and we'll get back to you. And by the way, don't forget to check us out at www.travel.earth. We hope we're going to inspire you to travel. Thank you.